You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Blacklist After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Blacklist After Show.
Yes. Dun, dun, dun. This is the Blacklist After Show. I don't know. Welcome to the Blacklist AfterBuzz After Show. As always, we're here. I'm Joe Braswell. I'm joined by Nando Velasquez.
Yes, hello there. By the way, we stole that from Revolution.
It's okay.
I just want to say that in case someone says we steal stuff from other shows.
It's all right. Oh, here we go. Shut that already. Relax.
Starts. I haven't even been
You
introduced.
get one
and
bad
starts.
comment on the internet, and
all good.
Nando's going nuts.
Oh.
And I'm also joined by the lovely Julia Cearley.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
I'm
Hi,
not joined
gentlemen.
by Joey.
Joey.
Little Joey
Joey.
Sanfelippo.
That's what I could call him.
He's tending to some other business, but he loves us all just the same. But we're here, obviously, because there is no Blacklist episode this week, no new episode, but we thought we'd take this opportunity to look back and reflect on what we've learned so far in 8 episodes of the Blacklist. A little recap, because the show is, a lot going on in the show, and even though we recap it every day for an hour after every show, there's still much to talk about. So we kind of wanted to sort of get our bearings and really just take a step back and take a bit of a.
We just miss you guys. We miss you guys. We didn't want to waste a week.
Yeah, we didn't want to waste a week. Why waste a week?
Yeah.
So
We don't have any lives. Sanfelippo has a life. None of us have a life.
no
So-
lives for us.
Yes, that's what it is.
Speak for yourself.
So, well, first of all, the Blacklist. We've got eight weeks, 8 episodes of the Blacklist. And the show is a bona fide hit, as we all know. For those of you who watch the show and listen to us know that the show is a hit. Our podcast is actually, by AfterBuzz standards, is also, and by iTunes standards, a hit too. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate you listening to us and downloading us on iTunes and making us a good show, but and making us a listen to show. Yeah,
A listen to show.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh, they make us
Anyway.
good.
And a downloaded show.
So 8 weeks ago, we were given a show called The Blacklist.
8 weeks ago.
It was a dark and stormy night.
This is
Our
like one
lives
of those.
changed forever.
It's like one of those sitcom episodes where they would like do the recaps and they would be like stuck in an elevator.
It's a bottle
It'd be
episode.
like-
It's a bottle
It's a
episode.
bottle episode.
Yes, this is the bottle episode of the
It
Blacklist.
was just like the time, Nando, where you drank that cup of coffee. No.
Totally.
So 8 weeks ago, we got the Blacklist. We had a wonderful, wonderful pilot that was directed by Joe Carnahan and written by John Bokenkamp, and we were delivered a wonderful character in Red Reddington. As well as Lizzie Keene and the rest of these folks, obviously Agent Wrestler, Tom Keene, Harold Cooper, and the rest of them, and also briefly Gray, our guy,
A little bit of Gray.
Charles Baker.
We
So
had a few reappearances.
Yeah.
We've seen him a lot lately.
we've seen him a lot.
Well, let's get deeper. Let's get a little
We're
farther
gonna get
back.
deep.
We're gonna get deep.
We're further back than
Further
that.
back than that, because
Okay.
because
Let's talk about it.
I'm not trying to beat my own chest here,
Uh-oh.
but no, I mean, pilot season is in May. Oh, not pilot season is in the early beginning of the year, but then the upfronts are in May. So a lot of these shows that get picked up, they get announced in May, and a lot of TV critics and industry professionals get an opportunity to see these pilots. So I actually got a little glimpse of the Blacklist in May, and before I even saw it, I mean, James Spader, I wanted to see it.
Sure.
And phenomenal show. Out of all the shows, I thought it was one of the best ones. And we were obviously doing The Following at the time and Bates Motel, and then we moved to Hannibal. Due to popular demand, we did Hannibal. And I said, listen, none of these shows come on in the fall. Let's jump on this show because it's obviously going to be a big hit. And I'm not trying to say I told you so. I'm just saying that the appeal for this show, I feel, was huge. I mean, just to notice this from May.
Yes.
And to see the plot line and, of course, James Spader and everything, I just think this show has definitely approved everything it's supposed to have proved in May at the upfronts.
Well, listen closely because I'm going to say something that I will never say again. You were right.
Oh!
Nando, actually, you were right.
Thank you.
And you did predict this, and you did want us to do the show, and you did.
Yeah.
Were very instrumental in getting us to do this after show, and so much so that once we did the show, you bothered not to show up for the first episodes. So
This is a bottle episode. Remember that time we started the show and ended it with an
just me, Julia, and Charles Baker
Just
doing
hang
our
out.
thing. You flip over like, let's see if this thing gets canceled.
What's the kid from
We'll show
Family
up later.
Ties when they were like trying to replace people? Oliver or something? No, it was Brady Bunch.
Brady Bunch is
Brady
Oliver.
Bunch is
But that's
Oliver.
okay. It's fine. Anyway, so yeah, we had a great show. I agree. I also knew about the pilot. The pilot was like one of the hottest pilots around before it was cast. And,
Yeah.
And when it was cast, it was even hotter. And then when the pilot was shot, it was even hotter. So we're glad it lived up to the hype. But let's go back to this pilot because I'm really interested, because what we saw in episode 1, we set the stage here, right?
Yeah.
We had I'm going to go through these blacklisters because we have kind of quite a collection of blacklisters, and I feel like we talked about this whole notion of whether this is sort of a puzzle or a mystery, and I kind of believe that all these puzzle pieces, I believe we're looking at more of a puzzle here. And I think all these pieces to the puzzle are laid out in front of us to be able to sort of solve this thing. So sometimes to be able to look back at some of these episodes will help us to be able to understand what we're about to see. That's why I think we're looking back. But our first blacklister, does anyone remember who our first blacklister was? No cheating.
What was his name?
Zumani.
Zamani. That's it.
Yes, Zamani.
He was a foreign guy.
Yes, and who ironically he was a foreign guy.
I'm sorry, that was my guess.
He was our first blacklister. He didn't have a number or anything because it was just a pilot. He wasn't black. He didn't have a number, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he looks oddly like our newest blacklister, who will find Anslo Garrick, who is this guy who we saw in the previews, who people have been buzzing about on the internet. He looks a lot like our first blacklister because he has the scars,
Yeah.
and the whole thing. And he's that horrifying monologue of a speech in the previews, like "There's no river you can cross. There's no mountain you can hide from me, Red Reddington." Well, something like
I'm
that.
your worst nightmare.
I'm going to get you.
I'm gonna get
scars.
Scars.
So,
Scars.
but he's very reminiscent of our first blacklister, also scarred up. And I don't know what's going to happen in this episode, but we know it's a 2-parter, so we're really looking forward to it. It's coming back next week. Ansel Garrick's getting 2 parts, and it according to NBC promos, it's going to change the game. So I'm very, or it's a game changer. Something like that.
You
Something's
should
gonna
do the
change.
entire podcast in that voice.
Okay. In a world. No. So so that was Zumani was the first guy, and it was a kidnapping. And so we first meet Red. He turns himself in. There was a kidnapping. They found out how the whole train, the heist. Very well, Joe Carnahan directed episode. We meet the team. We meet Wrestler. We meet Tom, of course. We meet Harold. And of course, we find out about Tom's potential secret with the floorboard full of passports and money and guns and everything else. And that was in the pilot. You forget how much story was covered in that pilot. How much of a table setting they actually did in that pilot. I don't know. I mean, looking back at this, Julia, is there any? Do you? I mean, I don't know if you got a chance to rewatch it at all, but looking back, did the pilot hold up for you? Do you feel like that they have sort of fulfilled the promise of the pilot with these last 8 episodes?
Absolutely. Oh, I 100% believe that they did such an amazing job in that pilot of presenting the characters and then started to reveal what these mysteries are that will be, exploding our heads over for the rest of the season. At least my head has been exploding over and over. So I think they're following through with most of them. There's still some that stick out to me that I feel I would like them to revisit. Tom's box full of passports, her scar that looks so similar to the symbol on top of Tom's box.
Yes.
They haven't even mentioned that in a really long time, and it's something that I thought was a great revelation when in the pilot episode, and it's just never really been handled, and I that's something that I'd like to see. We've never talked about her scar and why that's such a big deal. They made such a big deal of it in the pilot.
They did. Well, we talk about this. The pilot was shot like a full 6 months, before the rest episode 2 was shot, and maybe who knows, they some storylines they abandoned, maybe some things they picked up on, but it would be nice to see them really tackle all the loose ends that were in the pilot.
Yeah, I need a little follow through on some of that stuff.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we have not seen anything with the scar, and the scar potentially matching the box. Which Shelley did Shelley pick that out?
Shelley picked that up.
Superfan Shelley.
Superfan Shelley. That kind of blew my mind.
Right.
Again, that was my first time my head exploded.
Right.
But yeah, so
You
I've
always
gone
remember
back
your
and it's all over the internet too, and you see the pictures side by side, and they are strikingly similar.
Nando, what about you? Does the pilot has the show lived up to the promise of the pilot?
I think, well, you know, what usually happens with pilots, because they haven't been picked up yet, they pack in as much as they can into them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, there's lots of examples out there of successful pilots not living up to their potential, because pretty much the writers shot, you know, they pretty much put everything in the everything with the baby water, like in the pilot, and then it's like, where do we go from here? Right. This show has, you know, from episode 2, it was still good, not as good as the pilot, but it has moved up back to form. So it's definitely evened out, and I really feel, especially these last 2 episodes in particular, have really stood out.
Right. I agree. I feel like the pilot was so you know, chock full of information and explosions and exciting things happening and storyline, and then I think it took a while for them to find their footing on how to tell these stories, these blacklisters, while incorporating the overarching story of our regular characters. I didn't feel a great balance in the beginning. From that second episode.
Well, let's get into that, because that second episode was the Freelancer, and the second episode is really one of the hardest episodes to do. It's usually something that's either they want to make bigger than the pilot, or they want to build on the pilot. And I really feel like Julia and I talked about this. The second episode, we felt like started to dip a little from the expectation of what we saw in the pilot, and maybe it's because the pilot was so effing good that, you know, and it was directed by Joe Carnahan. It was this whole thing that, you know, disrespect to Chase Alexander, who directed the second one. But, you know, maybe it was something that it was a bit of a letdown there, because they had a lot of loose ends to tie up, or a lot of world building and continue to set up this world and that. And so the second one was weird because we had, it was entitled The Freelancer, and it was about this guy who was hired to kill. They had the big train wreck in the beginning, the big set piece of the train crashing and Wrestler in Montreal. But we had a situation where we thought the Blacklister was a freelancer, but in fact it was a hidden Blacklister.
Twist.
The Floriana Campo, Isabella Rossellini was the Blacklister, so it's a bit of a twist. But what was great about this episode is we had some big action set pieces. We had a lot of things going on, mystery and intrigue. We got to really sort of try to resolve a little sloppily this whole business with Red, and how is Red going to be able to deal with the FBI? How is he going to be able to move throughout this world? How is this all going to work? And they came up with, giving him this deal, which initially the Justice Department did not go with. The Attorney General said no to, and then they ultimately caved and said yes. They gave him his tracking things that he wanted. But remember that she gave him what he wanted only if she puts her own security detail with him, which is why we have our CIA agent, good old, what's her name?
I can't remember her character's name right now.
Blah blah blue. No, it's a Mira Malik.
Yeah,
that's her character.
Mira,
Parminder Nagra, right?
Yes.
The actress.
So that's where she comes. So she comes from as attached to Red security detail, which is still murky to me, right?
She's never with him.
Well, I can't figure out if she's attached to. And please, anyone help me out on iTunes or YouTube with this one. I can't figure out if she's attached to Red, like handcuffed to Red, or if she's attached to watch the FBI watch Red. It seems like
the latter.
Well, that's what it is. But when she was first introduced, it's like, we're gonna put you with Red. That was a condition, right?
Well,
that was for that. But
he got his little guys, and they threw one in as well.
Yeah, but that was for that mission. I thought. I was always wondering what her deal is too. But she's still there, obviously. I guess because
she's never ever with him, and she's working other cases.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Yeah. So we're just gonna make the assumption that what the Attorney General meant was you get to be on Red's detail, but you get to watch him. You get to watch the FBI and watch him.
I think what I didn't like actually about that episode in a way was I kind of liked the idea of Spader being in custody, So it was really quick to get him out of custody. I actually like the idea of having, I guess it was kind of like The Following, or even kind of like a Silence of the Lambs.
It's 2 Silence of the Lambs.
Very Silence of the Lambs, where he is in custody and he gets the help from behind bars, and then occasionally come out and cause havoc. But I liked that idea, having him free. We've gotten used to it, and it's really cool. You get some really awesome moments because he pretty much has immunity and gets to do whatever he wants. We have moments like last week's episode where he's just hanging out in the garage of that housewife who's laundering money. You know, some really awesome moments. But I think that was a big shocker for me too. And it almost was like, wait a second, the pilot kind of promised this, and now all of a sudden they're not promising that.
But I think that's a good adjustment. I really do. I really think that like we all sort of got this whole, you know, we've all seen the whole, you know, Hannibal Lecter, the things that, you know, Thomas Harris and whoever else, you know, Jonathan Demme created back in the day, and this whole like Clarice and Lecter thing. And, you know, we've kind of seen it. And frankly, Hannibal is a show on the network that is a great show that we all also do the podcast for, that we feel like we'll go back to that same thing with Will and Hannibal. We feel like they're going to have that sort of like, you know,
although right now it's opposite.
But I don't know if I want to see Spader behind bars, like, you know, quipping and being smug behind bars. I want to see him out in the world with his fedora.
It's fun to see him moving through his world, and it's necessary that he's out in the world as well in order for him to do what he does and help the FBI catch these blacklisters. They'd be nowhere if he wasn't out there. Still, I mean, he's still, to the criminal world, he's still just Red Reddington. They supposedly don't know that he's working for the FBI.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he needs to be there.
Right.
No, absolutely. It does make sense to have him out there because he gets to interact with the criminal minds as well out there.
Well, so, you know, in episode 2, Red gets his deal.
Yeah. But
he also gets CIA agent Malik, but he also gets his own security detail, which we see, which made the small appearances, but we get Dembe, the mysterious Dembe, and the mysterious Lulu, or Luli. I can't pronounce her name. Louli.
I think it's Luai. I don't know. You asking me? I mess up
don't
people's
ask
names on the
Nando.
internet. I mess up people's names right on the internet. You want me to say the name?
Anyway, but so we get them, and they're part of the gang. So we have Red. So we did like that. We like the whole idea of Red and his team as complete. Yeah. You know, along with Gray, who's in the shadows as a bodyguard, and the two. And Red, and we have them, and then we have the CIA. So I kind of like the world that they set up there, although I really feel like, again, I don't know if the show has really lived up to the promise of what I thought was going to be in that episode. You have Red and his team, the FBI and his team. I mean, they've really utilized Dembe and Lou in ways that I'd hope they would yet, and Gray as well, but maybe. But again, we're only 8 episodes in out of 22. It's a 22-hour movie. And we're only, by the standards of a 22-hour movie.
And we're not looking at these episodes thinking, you know what, this episode needs more Dembe. It really does. It needs a little more Dembe.
Although I did love the episode that had a lot of Lou in it. When she bought the house for him.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
I mean, so they're there. I feel like they utilize her a little bit more than they do Dembe.
And Dembe's pulled some guns on folks. And
he's a menacing character in the background.
Right. So we get to episode 3, and then it's that's when and the Freelancer was number 145, way down the list.
Yeah.
So, but we get to episode 3, which is Wu Jing.
Wu Jing.
Wu Jing. Wu Jing. The Wu Jing clan.
Yeah. And this was a great episode.
We like everyone likes this.
Yeah, this was a good episode.
We like the Wu Jing episode. This was an interesting one where we see Red's value because the guy Wu Jing, the super criminal, contacted Red because he needed to crack a CIA code or something like that. So he actually. It was a good chance for the FBI to see Red's value when he's like, I can bring you Blacklisters. See, here's one calling me now. Hello, Blacklister. Hold on. Yes. You know, so that was kind of cool. And then obviously that's one where he forced Lizzie to go undercover as
his assistant,
super decoder hacker expert, and they went in underground, and they literally underground, way underground. I like that episode. I mean, I think that I like the Blacklister himself. I like the idea of him. Anytime you're dealing with China and anything to do with the powers that you feel like some Chinese super villain holds is. Very there's something scary to that about me. That still seems grounded in reality, and so I like the idea of that.
And we got to see, I think it was pretty big. We got to see Red kill somebody for the first time.
Yes,
and with Lizzie there, without even blinking an eye. And it was somebody who, I mean, yes, he was working for the Chinese, for Wu Jing, but At the same time,
Bit
this
of
guy
a civilian though.
he
Wasn't
was
he?
He was kind of
seemed-
innocent.
he
Well, I mean,
seemed
as innocent as he could be.
as innocent as he can be.
And didn't he mention like his family? And
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Just took
Totally
him out.
mentioned his family.
yeah. I think that was sort of there to remind us that Red is.
That he is a bad
That,
guy.
as fun as it is to watch him interact and quip with everybody, that still on, he's a criminal. He's
Yeah.
he's a monster. I guess monster comes out a little bit later, but he definitely is a criminal.
And in terms of advancing the mildly serialized elements of the show, then we get Lizzie. The B or the C story is Lizzie requesting the ballistics report
Yes.
on the box.
Yeah.
And I think this is the episode where actually, this is the episode where the mysterious surveillance team, and the Apple guy moving
Apple
across the
guy,
street.
yeah.
So we have Lizzie requesting the ballistics report and getting information there. The surveillance team moving across the street. So the plot thickens. We're only in episode 3, so that was kind of cool. But then we moved on to one of our favorites. I think almost our favorite episode, the Stew Maker.
I love this dude.
Number 161. The
Very
Stew Maker's
He's
pretty badass to be so low on the list. He's the
like
lowest dude on the list.
so
Yeah,
far.
he's the lowest on the
Yeah,
list so far.
161.
161 on the blacklist, and he's kind of the most badass guy. But so this is where it gets confusing for me too. Now, in this episode, it opens with Lizzie testifying against drug lord. I forget his name, but played by Clifton
Hector
Collins.
Lorca. It's Hector
Hector
Lorca.
Lorca. So how did that happen for a rookie FBI agent, Nando?
Well, apparently something off camera, something that was not on the episode. Apparently,
Like she's just fresh out of the academy, and then she's
Yeah.
testifying in a high stakes. I know they must have explained it in the episode, and please help me
Did they
help
really?
me out online, folks, YouTubers, and
for someone
iTuners.
whose first day was on the job was because of Red, all of a sudden she's in other cases that are
Yes.
involved.
That's when
So
things got a little hazy for me as well.
I-
And she's being brought. It continues on that she's brought in on all these.
well, I'm willing to assume that life happens even when the show is not
Right.
airing in this world. That things do happen.
Okay.
So
guess.
that may or may not be important to us. I think the important
but to
thing
be at
really.
trial already.
Well, I think the important thing is that this leads us to the next Blacklister.
Right.
Lorca's not the Blacklister, but
No,
it leads us to it.
leads
Fair
to his
enough.
Stew Maker, who's played by Tom Noonan. Who's as we mentioned was the original Tooth Fairy.
Tooth Fairy
in,
and Maneater.
Maneater.
Yeah.
The Michael Mann
Or
version.
Manhunter.
No, Manhunter. You're right.
Manhunter. Maneater's the Hall & Oates song.
Whoa, here she comes. She's a
Yeah, he's a
blacklister.
Manhunter.
But so he was great and really creepy and weird,
Mm-hmm.
and all those things. But what we did, so the plot points that got advanced in this one is we got to see how much Red really cares about Lizzie in that
Him
moment. That
very
we love.
vulnerable.
Oh yeah, when he's
the
in the
car.
car and tracking down the dog.
Yes, and he's
And
like,
come on, because it's ringing twice.
right.
That was the first time we saw him sort of break out of the character we know as Red Reddington and have a human moment and realize that he really is emotionally invested.
And we also
in
had
Lizzie.
that wonderful monologue by Spader.
Yes.
The farmer monologue?
Yes, right before he kicks old Stew Maker in the stew.
And that kind of is a monstrosity what he did, really, because I think, especially because Lizzie was trying to profile and reach the Stew Maker, and I think we saw a little softer side of him. I mean, he still was doing his job and everything, but I think she really tried to get into his psyche,
Sure.
and then to have Red just
Do you think it was going to
throw him in
work
acid.
though?
No, I didn't think it was
No.
going to work, but at the very least, arrest him. Yeah, that's what Lizzie was obviously thinking of. She wasn't thinking set him free, just arrest him and try and rehabilitate him. But Red's here, gives this big speech, which we got to really feel, for the first time, I think, really, really feel what his end game is. That he's out for revenge on people who did something crazy to him.
Gave a little hint to what Lord knows what it is, but what his motivation might be.
And we saw a picture in the album book of his victims.
That was another major plot
That's
point
a
of ours.
big reveal.
A reveal who is maybe, and I don't know if we've checked this online. We should be checking these things
Check
when we
what?
do this show. Is that picture the same picture of the woman who we looked up on the Vite?
It
No.
looks similar,
It
but
looks similar, but the date on that picture is December 1990, and it looked like a younger girl, didn't it? Perhaps younger. I don't know. I'd have to look at that picture
We
again.
need to look at it.
'Cause it's pretty
Well, I'm
fleeting.
assuming that picture of the girl's dead, and
Right.
the picture that he saw in the last episode on the FBI database is someone who's still alive.
I don't need your fancy pants logic.
So yeah,
Smart guy.
Something.
I'm trying to vaguely make a connection. I'm trying to make a vague connection.
I
here.
know you are. I know you are. I'm
So
trying
yeah,
to
there's
stop you in your
that.
tracks.
Something I do want to bring up.
Here come
I
the
am
notes.
going back through
Uh-oh.
my notes. Wu Jing was number 3.
Yes.
You're good
Okay.
with notes. Wow.
Wow, look at this.
So Wu Jing,
Julia,
yes.
for those listening, is flipping through a giant legal pad.
I
of notes.
am. Wu Jing pays Red it with that number, right? At the
Right.
very end. That's the number that Red put into the system ViCap
Vicap.
to pull up Lucy Brooks or Lucy whatever
Right.
her number. So he got that number from Wu Jing. That's for her case number. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's good. That's a good callback.
Thanks.
Thank
That's
you.
something that we did
Thank
not.
you, legal pad.
Yeah.
Do we mention that on our
Julia
recap?
Cleary, our
No.
show stenographer.
Oh my
everybody.
God.
We did not.
What were your big giant pad of notes for our episode?
I can't
It
wait
took
till
me.
for General
I
Lund.
didn't have it yet. I didn't have it.
I
Didn't
can't
put it
wait till
together
episode
yet.
24 when she opens it up and it's like thud,
Yeah.
flip,
breaks
flip.
the table on us here.
They do these things called computers and iPads.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. All right. So for those of you who can't see
How do I
that,
drop a pin?
for those of you who can't see
Drop
that
a pin.
on iTunes,
Yes.
Julia gave me the glare of death. So then we move on to episode number 5, The Courier. We know with Courier is our guy Teabag, Robert Napper.
Robert Nepper, I love
Nepper,
him.
so like Nepper like pepper. He was great. Does not feel pain.
Oh yeah.
That was a cool
That
episode.
was an almost equally as creepy Blacklister to the stew maker.
right.
I thought that was a really fascinating concept. I've never seen anything
Because
like
he's
that
kind of
before.
unstoppable. Yeah,
Right.
considering
Yeah.
he can't feel pain. Yeah.
And in terms of the plot, I mean that was I think that Liz. This is when Liz finally confronts Tom. This was the big confrontation when Liz confronts Tom about like, oh, actually, what?
No, well, it happens at the very end.
Right, the
That's
very
at the
end.
very
Oh,
end.
at the very, very
Where
end
Tom
of
really
it.
confronts
Tom
Lizzie.
confronts
Right, that's
Lizzie.
true.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? You know, Tom confronts Lizzie. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Which leads to episode 6, Joe Sanfelippo's favorite, Gina Zanetakos, number 152, where they bring Tom in and they're questioning him, they're doing the whole thing, and blah 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 blah.
And she. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Go ahead. No, that's it. And we find out, we go through all this rigmarole to sort of prove him guilty or innocent, and it turns out that, of course, ultimately his story isn't checking out, even though we find out that later the guy he met with was Gray, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the guy.
Yes.
He went for a job interview over at the hotel in Boston, and he thought he was meeting with this professor for a teaching job. And by the end of the episode, we find out that he actually met with Gray and that Red was behind this. So, of course, Lizzie ended up having this big speech that she doesn't want to see Red again and doesn't want to talk to him.
It's also revealed to us through Red that Gina Zanetakos is Tom's lover.
Right. That's right.
But
And she has a similar box of passports and goodies and currency in her apartment, remember? Along with
right,
a picture
yeah.
of Tom next to her bed.
I didn't get a look at her box, but I think what happened? What I say?
our producer,
Steve Lemieux,
Steve
come back to us,
Lemieux.
Lemieux. Okay, seriously, I'm sorry.
well, you know what? I
I
acknowledge you for not looking there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. But yes,
For being a
I'm sure it's
gentleman.
I'm sure it's
I'm sure it's
full
lovely.
of things.
Joe Braswell,
We stop
gentleman.
right now. I'm sorry. I'll stop right
It's
now.
going to be really hard for you to stop yourself, too. I'll be impressed if you
yes.
can hold back.
No more comments. Frederick Barnes, Blacklister number 47. Frederick Barnes.
Oh, Freddie.
Chemical Attack on the Subway, Nando's favorite episode.
That was my favorite episode.
Yes.
That was
Don't know
by
how
far
that's
my
your favorite
episode.
episode.
Yeah, the suburban dad.
I loved it.
The whole
Yours.
thing. This is where we see we see some resolution in terms of Lizzie's place in the FBI.
Oh, thank
and
God.
also
She finally gets called out for being
gets called out
a
for
pretty
being
crappy
incompetent.
FBI agent.
She lets that person go. Blah 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 blah. We know what happened there, and then this leads us to number 8, General Lund, which was last week. So, we've got a lot of story now. Looking back, we have a lot of story that we've covered here in the last 8 episodes. Considering that we have 22 to go, we're about at that point now in May. In
22.
22 total.
22
total.
Got
I'm
it.
sorry.
Okay.
I can't do the math. What's 22
What is that?
minus 8?
14.
Thank you. We have 14 episodes to go. So we're about at that November sweeps time, and this is November sweeps when all the big episodes happen. So
Yeah.
we have that turn with Angelo Garrick. Now I've looked over this promo like the Zapruder film. I've gone frame by frame and checked this thing out, and a lot. We have wrestler looking like he's in big trouble. Looks like he's shot, if not looking like he may be dying. Well, we don't think he's going to die, but he looks like he's in big trouble. We have who I assume Angelo Garrick is revealed, but he looks a lot like our guy we talked about, who's dead, but he looks a lot like Zumani, who's dead. But anyway, another scarred up guy. Maybe it's Zumani's brother. A la
maybe
Die Hard.
I love Die Hard.
maybe it's his brother.
But
anyway, so he's we'll see what happens there. And it looks like it's Red who is I think the thing is that there's a kidnapping attempt of Red, and Wrestler tries to stop it, and that's all we know. So I feel like we'll hopefully get a lot of answers, because what I don't want to happen with this show, which I fear is, I don't want to turn into Lost, where I love Lost was great, but every episode you get one answer and 10 more questions, one answer and 10 more questions. I just want answers. You at least start to put this puzzle together. Help us put this puzzle together, and then move on to advance the story. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this promo? What do you guys think about Angelo Garrick? Any predictions here?
Don't forget the one thing that I believe you knew this too. It was revealed that this is going to be the first two-parter.
Yep.
Yes.
That they have for the Blacklist.
Yes.
So we can
I
definitely predict the big cliffhanger at the end of next week's episode.
I'm not going to expect too many answers in part 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Very true.
So that would be a big thing.
Very true. Well, I want to we've had a lot of dialogue here on YouTube and on iTunes, and again, I want to thank you guys again for downloading us on iTunes and rating us, good and bad. We had a lot of people, a lot of activity on iTunes this week. Thank you very much for all the people who listened.
Gotta love that.
And decided to rate us on iTunes. It really helps us out a lot. Helps people find out about the show. Helps with our rankings. So we had a lot of great people on iTunes come up. We had one bad comment who Nando's agonizing over.
Well, no, I'm not agonizing. I just thought it was a little. Well, you can read it if you want. I'm going to pull it up.
Well, no, it says this is certainly not the best AfterBuzz has to offer.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
The host banner is.
There are a lot of good shows on AfterBuzz, so no, I actually don't mind that.
Okay.
Host
banner off topic, repeatedly talking about unrelated shows.
And
most of their predictions are culled from other people's theories they've read online.
I was saying, that
makes me mad.
That I think is a little bad. I mean, first of all, it just sounds like
I
we don't watch
the
the show. We just talk about unrelated TV shows.
In fairness, I mentioned last week that my prediction, I read it online somewhere. 8 episodes in.
Well, and kudos to you. That's fine. That's the first one, or if we ever. I mean,
most of their predictions are culled from other people's theories they read online. They have limited insight, and makes it one of the least listenable shows on AfterBuzz. There you go.
Yeah, first of all,
thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. First of all, Joe,
donator.
We don't even use the internet that much. I mean, we're using it today a little bit, but
Julia's got
a
legal pad.
She's got a legal pad. Exactly. Joe Sanfelippo. We told Joe Sanfelippo to get a Twitter account. He bought a birdcage. Okay,
right.
So come on. This is the kind of
joke. You do material?
Yeah.
What is
Try to veal. Try to veal.
What do you got? You got any more material there, Shecky?
I got some material. I'm saying is that we could come up with this kind of stuff too. So. We do.
Well, let's talk.
And limiting insight. They figured us out. We have limiting insight.
But thank you, Three Dog Mom, who loves the podcast.
Yeah.
Four
and
Paws.
that person gave us 2 stars. They hated us so much they gave us 2 stars.
All
I
right.
love that.
Okay, we get it. Nando, I did that for Nando. Nando's very up in arms about this. Three Dog Mom, we appreciate you. 14 Paws, thank you very much. A lot of dogs and cats here. Ruben Carpenter, Ben Pork, thank you very much. Joe Mama, 1969.
Joe Mama.
I like Joe Mama, 1969.
There's a lot there.
Fangirl Shelley, of course. And then of course, we didn't mention TT Lolo, 515. That's the person who loved our show, then gave us 4 stars. We're gonna earn that 5th star for you, TT Lolo.
What about YouTube? Did you get YouTube?
YouTubers, of course.
If not, I'll pull it up.
No, I can get our YouTubers as well. YouTubers, thank you all for listening. We have a lot of activity on YouTube. We have, of course, Robot
T Sprinkles.
Roberto
I
Sprinkles.
know that name now. Thank you for telling me how to say it.
Mark G, Alana Frank, Jill S. Thank you very much, Jill Ace. Carney Bellachard. I believe that's how you say it. Well, we've been going back and forth on some stuff. She's fantastic. Sabrina Girl 1980. Sabra Girl 1980. Charmaine, the lovely Taylor S. And then
Talmer Muggo, Mark G. You mentioned those.
Complena Sarah.
Yes, Complena Sarah. She posted a bit. Yeah.
Christy Sechin. I'm turning into you.
Well, you wanted to take the job from me. You got it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Anyway, thank you all for listening. Please comment. We're just trying to keep this.
And we love all comments. I mean,
we do.
Seriously, we do.
We take them seriously.
We take them seriously, obviously. Sometimes a little too.
Yeah, tickle tea lady. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
So we just want to touch base with all you out there. Make sure that we are still here, and we'll be back next week with a fresh new episode of The Blacklist.
Had to think about that?
Yeah,
Episode 9. I can't remember what show we are. But thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next week. Nando, where can we find you in the meantime?
You can find me on Twitter at Nandovel, Nandovel, and here as well for AfterBuzz, Homeland and Walking Dead, and with Mr. Braswell for Geek Nerd Tech on
Check
Black
that
Hollywood
iTunes.
Live.
Geek
Yes.
Nerd Tech. Julia.
The Twitter. My name, Julia Cearley, Juliacearley. I'm also on Instagram a little bit, not much, but I'm getting better. What about you, Joe Braswell?
Geek Nerd Tech. You can check that out and download that on iTunes as well. And at Twitter, at Joe K. Braswell, and Instagram, Joe Braswell, and Extra and Grantland, and that's about it.
Busy
And
boy.
here.
Here.
At
And
the
here.
Blacklist.
That's most
Thank
important.
you again. We will see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.